All right. Again, thank you everyone so much for joining our Teach in Thailand informational webinar today. I'm Carrie Plath, I'm the program coordinator for our Thailand programs, and I'm more than happy to talk about our programs today. I want this to be as interactive as possible, so although you can't speak in the webinar, if you would write any of your questions as they pop up in your mind in the questions bar, I'll be sure to answer them. If it's a question that seems like a great time to answer that, I'll answer it, but if it pertains to a future slide, I'll probably wait until we get to that slide to answer your question, but I do promise that all of your questions will be answered by the end of our presentation today. So since we've confirmed sound and video are working, I'll go ahead and get started. And again, definitely feel free to write in the questions bar if you have any questions or comments along the way. So first, what is CIEE? CIEE is a nonprofit, non-governmental organization, and we're located in Portland, Maine. In the picture, you can see our building. It's pretty close to the waterfront, and we've been around for 70 years. The blue arrow points to where we sit, so if you were here, you could see us through that window. And our Teach Abroad team is pretty small. We have 6 people that are on the team, but in addition to teaching abroad, we have many other departments at CIEE. We have our study abroad departments. We have people who go on high school or gap years abroad. We also have a work exchanges program where people come from different countries and work in the United States at seasonal jobs, and also high school programs where people come. So it's definitely something for everyone, and you're here today because you're interested in the Teach Abroad program and specifically our Thailand program. So I'll introduce you to our team. Matt is our vice president leading our team, and Stephen, our manager, also is here to support and guide us. Luke is our senior coordinator, and he's in charge of our China, Morocco, and Senegal programs. I'm Carrie, and I'm the coordinator for our Thailand, Czech Republic, and Vietnam programs. Sam is in charge of most of our Spain programs besides Spain Professional. That is one that Sagan is in charge of, as well as she's in charge of our South Korea, our Chile, Dominican Republic, and then our Portugal volunteer program as well. So all of us are here to help you. We've all taught abroad and lived abroad and really are passionate about teaching abroad. So we've taught abroad in many different places, and we're always happy to talk to interested applicants. You can always contact me. I'll give you my contact information later, or one of my colleagues. And someone's asked if we're going to be able to see these slides later. Yes, I'm recording it, so as long as it works, I will send out the link to the recording later on. All right. So the first question you should be asking yourself is, why do you want to teach abroad? Is it maybe that you want to gain a teaching experience? Is it to speak Thai, travel with a purpose, immerse yourself in a new culture? Whatever it is, I'd encourage you to take a moment to reflect on that. And if you're willing to share with the group, I'd love to hear why you're here and why you're thinking of teaching abroad. As you think of that and write your answers, I'll tell you a little bit about the picture. So this was at our spring 2017 orientation, and everyone was pointing to the area of Thailand that they were moving. So those are some of our teachers who went to Thailand last spring. All right, so some great answers are starting to come in. So someone here wants to learn more perspectives about different cultures by immersing themselves, extended cultural immersion, passionate about teaching English to adults, wanting to share their teaching experience with students and adults overseas, so that's great. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't thought about it, to think about why you might want to teach abroad. I can say personally that teaching abroad will change your life, and you can definitely see the world as no tourist can. We touched on it with some of the feedback that people had a moment ago as to why you'd want to teach abroad. And I personally have taught abroad in Costa Rica and in Macedonia. I've lived abroad in Mexico and Spain as well, and I can tell you that teaching abroad was definitely a much more immersive experience for me. When I was in Costa Rica, I was there for 4.5 months. I did my student teaching there in Spanish, actually. I was teaching Spanish for my Spanish education degree. And then in Macedonia, I was teaching English with the Peace Corps for nearly 3 years. So it was an amazing experience, and I'm still in contact with friends and family. I had host families in both Costa Rica and in Macedonia, and I'm still in contact with them as well as some of my colleagues. And I have some of my best friends that live abroad in Macedonia at this time. So not only did I get to travel, which I love, and certainly a big benefit of living and teaching abroad, but I also really got to be part of the culture. I got to go to weddings, I got to go out for coffee with my friends, and get to know people at the local market. So it's something that I will always cherish, and I would encourage anyone, if you're thinking about it, to take the step and go live abroad for a while, and especially teaching. It's very rewarding, and having all your students, they always love having a native English speaker and just learning about you and where you're from. So enough about me. We'll go on and talk a little bit more about our program and the Teach in Thailand highlights. So teaching in Thailand is our second largest program, and I think it has a lot of diverse options and it's something for everyone. So we have many different departures. In the spring, we have our May departure. There is a smaller June departure, but most people will be going in May in the spring, unless you have a late graduation date or happen to be teaching late or something, then you might go in June. But most people will go in May. And then we have fall departures for our professional program. The departure is in late July, and for our standard program, the departure is in mid to late October. Both the standard and professional programs, which I'll go into in more detail in a moment, depart at the same time in the spring. So you also, in this program, could teach students ranging from kindergarten to university, and that just depends, on your placement. Again, we'll talk about that more, but there's a large variety of types of ages of students that you may teach. You might be at a private or public school, and you can also choose between 1 or 2 semesters. So 1 semester program is typically 5 months, and 2 semester program is 10 to 11 month commitment. So to talk about a few more details, I think this slide will help us get a little deeper into the program. So we'll talk about our standard program first. The majority of our teachers that go to Thailand are in this program, and this program is very similar to the professional program. The main difference is that the professional program does have some additional requirements, and as a result is able to offer a higher salary. So we'll talk about the standard program, as it's what most people will be applying for. In the standard program, you can choose 1 or 2 semesters, and to be eligible for the program, you need to be a native English speaker, a citizen of an English-speaking country like the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, Ireland, or South Africa, and you must have a bachelor's degree in any field. If you're still working on your bachelor's degree, you can apply, but you need to have it in order to get your visa and your work permit in Thailand, so you need to have it before you go. And the great thing is you do not need any formal teaching experience. So in Thailand, they're looking for native English speakers, and formal teaching experience is not a requirement. So that's something that's amazing. For the professional program, they're able to pay a little higher salary, which we'll get into in another slide. But in addition to the standard program requirements, so you need to have 1, 2, and 3 listed in the requirements under the standard program: native English speaker, citizen of an English-speaking country, and a bachelor's degree. But the difference is that your bachelor's degree must be in education, hard science, or math. So hard science is like biology, chemistry, physics. And if you have a degree in any of those areas, plus 1 year of teaching experience, then you're eligible for the professional program. I will say on the professional program, you do have to commit to 2 semesters, and that's because they're able to pay you more. You're going to be teaching maybe a higher degree of of science or math or some other subject area. And so you definitely want to have that teaching experience to go on that program. If you have all of those requirements but only want to go for 1 semester, never fear, you can still sign up for the standard program. So the great thing is that there's no Thai language requirement. I would certainly encourage you to learn some Thai while you're living there, as learning the language of wherever you're living is always important, but you do not need to know Thai to go and teach. And if you are over the age of 55 or 55 and older, you will need to do an additional Skype interview, and this isn't because we think you wouldn't be a great teacher. We definitely think you'd be a great teacher, but it's because of a cultural reason in Thailand. At 55, everyone in Thailand retires. So it's very strange for them to think that someone over 55 would be working. So if you're 55 and older and want to teach, that's awesome. The schools just need a little extra assurance that, yes, this person definitely wants to teach, and they need to know a little more about why you're not retired at that age. All right, so let's talk more about the job. And again, if you guys have questions, definitely write them as we go. All right, so this is a photo of one of our teachers who actually now she actually works for our partner organization in Thailand. So that's some of her students. And so when you're in Thailand, it's hard to say exactly what your job will be because every school is different. Similar to in the United States or Canada, schools are different from school to school. In the United States, from state to state. In the United States, there's different schedules. There's different ways that the classes are taught. So it's the same in Thailand. Every school is unique and different, but in general, you will be teaching 20 to 25 hours per week in the classroom and have 40 hours total at school. So also similar to the United States, you're going to be teaching in the classroom for only the 20 to 25 hours, but then you have time for prep and grading and lesson planning, or maybe a school assembly. Sometimes there's some really great cultural experiences you can have at school, like they have a teacher's day. So things like that would be the 40 hours total at school. You maybe would be asked to work an evening or a weekend sometimes, but oftentimes you can expect a 5-day work week. You're typically going to be teaching English as a foreign language, but sometimes there's potential to teach other subjects in English, like science, math, physical education, health. So if you have any other areas that you feel competent in, that you feel like you'd be comfortable teaching, write them on your application. There's a placement preferences section that we'll talk about a little bit more, but that's one of the most important sections of your application because it's how we know where to place you and what your preferences are. And so if you want to teach computers and you write that on your application, that's great. We'll try to find a school that's looking for that. If you want to teach Spanish, sometimes schools are looking for Spanish and English teachers as well. So any area that you would feel comfortable teaching, put it on there. If it's something you wouldn't want to teach, don't list it because you might get placed teaching it and then you wouldn't be very pleased. So definitely only write subjects that you'd be interested in teaching. And also, you will likely be working as the lead English teacher in your own classroom. I would say 98 to 99% of our teachers are lead teachers. There's a couple people who do have co-teachers that are in the classroom with them, but normally you're going to be the main teacher in your class, and you might be in either a public or private school in Thailand, and we do place all over Thailand. So as you can imagine, Thailand's pretty big, and there's a lot of variety between public, private, and different regions. So someone had a great question. What is Teachers' Day? So Teachers' Day in Thailand is a day when you honor your teachers, maybe like Mother's Day or Father's Day, but it's for your teachers. And so on that day, there's a big ceremony and celebration, and students make things and bring things to their teachers. So it's a very unique and what I've heard, a very meaningful celebration. I've never been able to experience it myself, but from the pictures I've seen and the stories I've heard from our teachers, it sounds like it's a pretty cool day to be teaching in Thailand because all the students are on their best behavior and they're honoring their teachers, which I think is something really cool. Another great question. If you want to teach another subject besides English, how likely is it that you'll be placed in that subject? I'd say it's pretty likely. There's a lot of people who sometimes get placed to teach English and other subjects. I should mention that when you're teaching another subject, it's going to be in English. You're not going to be expected to teach math in Thai or anything. Sometimes students are in English programs where they're learning all in English, and so that's the type of program you'd be teaching in. Certainly, if that's a priority, make sure to list it, and we would try to place you accordingly. So great question. If you want to teach in an international school in a largely populated Thai city, that's not typically where we're placing people. If you want to go with an international school, you might want to apply directly through an international school, as we're placing at public and private schools. There are, some private schools that operate similar to an international school, but that's not typically where the need is for our teachers. All right, so I have some other questions, but I'm going to go on and then we'll talk about some of your questions coming up. So a little more, what to expect. This is also from our spring 2017 orientation. We went on a riverboat cruise and then took a photo afterwards. People had a lot of fun. You can see in the photo that everyone is mostly wearing black, and that's because for the past year until about 2 weeks ago, Thailand was in mourning for their king who had passed away, and they were mourning for a year by wearing black and white and muted colors. I was actually in Thailand a couple of weeks ago when the mourning period was over, and it was very interesting to see colors come back to the streets. So everyone's wearing colors now, and Thailand is quite a vibrant, colorful country. So it will be nice to see everyone wearing colors again moving forward. So a little bit more about the job, as we talked through the differences between standard and professional, so you can choose which works best for you, and 1 or 2 semesters on the standard program or 2 semesters on the professional program. Again, you can pick spring or fall. The fall professional program departs in the end of July, whereas the fall standard program departs in October. Also, salary is important. You will be getting paid a salary on the standard program. It's a minimum of 25,000 Thai baht per month, which is roughly 740, 750 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate. And so that's what you'll be paid on that program. On professional, you'd be paid about 30,000 Thai baht per month as a minimum. There's the opportunity if you teach other subjects or things like that to maybe get a little more, but at a minimum, you'll earn 25,000 on the standard and 30,000 on the professional program. In addition, you'll receive rent-free accommodation. This means that you will not be paying any rent, but you will be paying for utilities, which I've heard is about $15 per month, depending on how much of your utilities that you use. But it's pretty cheap for utilities. If you go in the spring, you're going to be earning a completion bonus if you complete 2 semesters. On the professional program, if you complete 2 semesters in either the spring or the fall, you also get the completion bonus, and that's 20,000 Thai baht, and that helps to offset the cost of your return airfare. So all in all, you're getting plenty to live on. Living in Thailand is quite cheap. You can buy meals for $1 to $5. You're not going to have rent, so you can use a lot for traveling or saving or paying loans or saving up some money. And you should be able to live very comfortable on your salary. This is significantly more than Thai teachers are paid, so you're definitely going to be living well with your salary. Great question about extending. So if you sign up for 1 semester and go and find out you love it and want to stay, can you extend? Yes, it's definitely possible. And in fact, it happens every semester where people go and decide they love it and want to stay. And one of my friends, she went and really enjoyed it, and she extended on the 2nd day. Most people don't decide that quickly, but it certainly does happen. So if you want to extend, as long as your school feels comfortable with how you're teaching and can still afford to have an English teacher, they're likely going to want to hire you. 9 out of 10 times, they really want to keep the teachers that they have, and they'd love to keep you as long as they can. So to extend, if you want to extend through CIEE, that is possible, and there's definitely options for extending. So questions about public and private schools. So how are the different systems? So again, every school is different, even if it's a public versus public or private versus private. It's hard to say a standard. In general, I would say private schools have more money because the parents of the students are paying for the students to go. They might have a few more frills that a public school might not. Similar to, I think, private schools in many parts of the world. And so the expectations of the teachers doesn't really differ. You're still expected to teach your class, to plan your lessons, to implement your lessons, but you might have a smart board, whereas in a public school, you might have a chalkboard or a marker board. So those are some of the differences. But both schools definitely treat their teachers well. You have a coordinator who speaks English at whatever school you're at, and they're there to help you. And many of our schools we've worked with for years. So this program has been around for about 17 years. So we have a very strong partnership with our schools and our partner organization in Thailand. All right. Great question about accommodation is how close is it to the school? Again, sorry to sound like a broken record, but it really depends on your placement. In general, you're going to be able to walk to your school, or maybe someone will pick you up from your school to bring you there, or there's a local bus that you could take. And so in general, it's pretty close to the school. Sometimes it's even on the school property, and you're going to know all of this before you go to Thailand. We'll talk about that in a moment, but before you go to Thailand, you would get your placement in accommodation, and you would be able to see a lot of these types of things, keeping in mind that it's important to be flexible and that when you go to Thailand, things aren't always, as you expect, and that's a good thing. You can learn a lot and grow a lot, and sometimes it's the surprises that are the most exciting. So, learning how to take local transportation, that's something that's hard to plan for, and you just kind of learn when you go. So I think that your coordinator will definitely help you with that adjustment, as well as our orientation in Thailand. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about regions. So as I mentioned, the placement preferences section of your application is very important. It's a lengthy section, it's a simple section, and it's not what the schools are paying attention to the most, but it's how our partner organization OAG in Thailand helps to place you at a school in Thailand. So there's many different schools that have preferences of their own, and they're going to be thinking like, I need a teacher to teach these subjects, and they have very specific requirements of their own, and then you have your requirements and your preferences. And we do try to match you according to your preferences as best as we can, keeping in mind that the Thai school is the one that makes the hiring decision and is the one that ultimately hires you. So on the placement preferences section, you're going to be able to write if you want to live with someone else, if you're going or be placed with someone else, teach with someone else, if you want to go, if you're going with a friend, partner, spouse, if you're applying with someone. If you're doing that, you should both write each other's name and be sure to apply at the same time so that we can submit your applications together. You're also going to be writing if you prefer primary or secondary school. And you're going to be also writing which region you prefer. So on our application and in Thailand in general, there's 5 regions, and you can see pictures of the 5 regions on this screen, and I'll tell you about them in a moment. So the picture on the screen is our placements for our spring program, and our fall program looks pretty similar in distribution, but a few more houses because we had over twice as many people who go in the fall. So first, we'll focus on the picture in the upper left by the blue houses. So that's this region. And this is the northern region of Thailand. And this region borders Myanmar and Laos, and it's most well known for its mountain ranges and breathtaking nature. So it's definitely a tropical area. It does have cooler winters than the other regions. And in this region, you find beautiful culture of the hill tribes like the Karen tribe, or also known as the Long Neck tribe, and they have a lot of really good coffee in this area as well. So popular cities you may have heard of include Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, and Sukhotani. And in the northern region, it's rich in history and outdoor recreation, so if you like hiking, climbing, things like that, this may be the region that you'd want to select. As you can see from the picture, there's lots of mountains. I think it looks a little temperature-wise cooler than the other places, but I don't know. I could be biased to just knowing that it is cooler there. All right, so now we'll pop over to northeastern Thailand, which is all the green houses on the map, and it's the plains picture where there's some palm trees and a bird in it. And northeastern Thailand is also known as Isan, which is the largest region in Thailand. So this is a plains and basin region. It does have heavy rainfall from May to October. Don't let that worry you because there's heavy rainfall all over Thailand from May to October, but because it's a plains region, it might have slightly more. It was once the poorest region, but now it's actually considered the nation's fastest growing economy. So it's most well known for its unique food that has really strong flavors. It has a very rich culture, and it's also known for being the bridge between Thailand and the neighbors to the east. There's 4 large cities located in the region that are called the Big Four of Isan, and that's Korat, Ubon Ratchathani, Udon Thani, and Khon Kaen. And so like other regions, you'll definitely be able to get a taste of villages, temples, and markets and really experience the local culture. Then we'll move on to the orange houses and this city picture with the Grand Palace, which is Bangkok. You've probably seen photos before. And so this is the central region on our application. It also includes the western region, which is often combined into the central region. So central Thailand is, again, the orange houses, and it's home to the Thai capital of Bangkok. It's also known for its numerous canals, and it's known as Venice of the East. There's rice farming and historical sites, and a lot of other things going on in and around Bangkok. As a whole, the region is a central plain with a small seacoast, and it's also home to incredible lush green landscapes and farmlands. Popular cities here include Bangkok, as I mentioned, and Kanchanaburi and Ayutthaya. Placements in and around Bangkok are very competitive due to the location, so it's important to note that a lot of the need is in smaller cities, which are still pretty big, but cities or outskirts of Bangkok. Places like Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and the southern regions are our most competitive regions because the most people want to go there. It's where people have heard about before. And so you need to submit a very strong application, apply early for those regions. It's important to note that people in all regions are happy and are having a great time, and sometimes placements in the place that you'd never heard of can be better than a placement in a really large, bustling city like Bangkok. All right, so bordering central Thailand is the Gulf of Thailand, and those are the yellow houses. This region is known for its short mountain ranges, basins, and beautiful coastline. So this is the picture with the train that you can see. Notable cities in this region include Chonburi, specifically Pattaya, Koh Chan, and Koh Samet, and most major cities are located along the coastline. But there's also a large national park in the north, which is CIEE National Park, and you can find yourself here on the beach or exploring inland waterfalls, and that is eastern Thailand. And then finally, the purple house in the bottom is southern Thailand, and that's the picture of the iconic large islands jutting out of the water with the boat. And that is the quintessential beach and resort region. So you've probably heard of southern Thailand. It's where a lot of tourists go. As I mentioned, it's competitive. It is our most competitive placement region. And there are several major cities such as Phuket, Krabi, Hua Hin, and Hat Yai. And these are some of the big cities you might have heard of. This is where you would maybe want to go if you love the beach, but you do need to be prepared to submit a strong application. It's also important to note that there's 4 parts of this region. Every larger region has a smaller province that we don't place people in the very bottom south. And so every region in Thailand has a lot to offer, and I think that you can have a pretty good experience anywhere you go. And the great thing is that there's a lot of Buddhist holidays and a lot of weekends, so you can certainly travel anywhere you desire in your free time and on school breaks. All right, so something to mention on the placement preferences section is the regions, as I said, and you're going to be ranking your top 3 regions. So if you choose your first region and there's simply not a school that's there that's able to hire you, then you will definitely be considered for your second region and then your third. We've also recently added to our placement preferences section another set of questions, and it's where you will rank your top 3, your 3 preferences. You'll say what's most important to you, to be placed with someone else, to be placed at the institution level, primary, secondary that you prefer, or to be placed in the region you prefer. And this will help us to be able to place you best according to your preferences. Again, noting that the Thai schools get to make the final decisions because they're the ones hiring you. So certainly if you pick a region and we can't find something in that region, then we'd definitely go to the next region and keep looking for a placement. And speaking of that, if you're accepted into the program, we feel very strongly that we're going to be able to place you. And so although we can't guarantee placements because Thai schools make the final choice, we definitely feel very strongly that you will be able to be placed, and we're excited to be able to place you. All right, so the CIEE difference. So of course you could go on your own, or you could go through a recruiter, or there's plenty of other ways that you could go teach in Thailand. But some of the reasons why you might want to choose to teach with CIEE is because you're going to find your placement prior to going. In addition, you're going to have assistance with housing. Not just assistance, we're going to find you housing. So the way that the program works is that after you apply, we'll review your application, and we try to review applications within 2 weeks, but often just 1 week of when you apply. We're already reviewing applications for spring and fall 2018 for the Thailand program, so that's pretty exciting. And once you're accepted, you're going to pay a commitment deposit, which is $500 or $1,000 if you're with TEFL. And then after that, we send your application to Thailand, and there's a little waiting period where we're looking for placements for you. And if you apply really early, that's awesome, but then there's a little longer waiting period for placements. And then when we find you a placement, we send you a bunch of details about the school and about the house. The housing is provided by your school. And so that's when you decide if you want to accept the placement or not. And only after you accept it are we asking you to pay the remaining program fee balance. So that's kind of how the placement and housing works. Someone had asked about that. And that's something that you're going to have before you go. A lot of programs, you don't know that information before you go, but you will have that before you go to Thailand. And so once you have all of this in place and we have your placement, we're going to help you obtain your work visa. If you're a United States citizen, we're able to pay for the visa processing costs for you. And if not, if you're from another country, we're definitely going to help you in finding your visa. You're also going to have on-site orientation. It's often 5 days. If you arrive at one of the smaller orientation dates in July or June, then it's, 2 or 3 days, but we still cover the same materials, just a lot quicker with less people. But in orientation, you're going to be getting tips on teaching. You're going to get some Thai language lessons, some cultural excursions, ideas on what it's like to be in Thai culture. There's also a pre-departure course that we have online that helps you to acclimate to what Thailand culture is like. In addition, American citizens, we provide international insurance, and for non-American citizens, we help give you suggestions of where you might be able to get international insurance. You have 24/7 support in country, and also there's different offers that you have when you're in country. There's newsletters that are sent out to you. We host different webinars with current and former participants for you before you go, and when you return, you get to be part of our big alumni network. So those are some of the reasons you might want to choose CIEE, and you can see in the pictures the woman releasing the lantern. It's at the Loy Krathong Festival, which just occurred 2 weeks ago, and you let go of the old and let in the new at that festival. And in the bottom is at the Grand Palace on one of our orientation trips. So next, another thing as to why CIEE, I'll let you read Jen's quote for a moment, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so as you can see, Jen studied abroad with Prague, and then she went to Thailand to CIEE, and she mentions the land of smiles, and Thailand really is a smiley place. I find myself smiling more there, and the Thai people are so generous and giving, and so I've always felt really safe and comfortable in Thailand, and I've never been short of people helping me and watching me out when I'm there. So certainly your coordinators, our staff in Thailand, and all the other people that you meet at orientation are going to be a great support network for you when you're there. And I don't know, I really like Thailand. It's kind of hot for me, but I do like it. All right, so we'll talk about TEFL certification. Some people have asked. So for Thailand, TEFL certification is highly recommended, but it's not required. If you already have a TEFL certificate, be sure to include that in your application under the education documents, because schools want to see that. It definitely makes your application stand out to have TEFL certification. And if you don't know what TEFL stands for, it's Teaching English as a Foreign Language. And if you've not taught before or not taught a language before, I think it's a very important course to consider getting, because you're going to be the lead teacher in your school, and you're going to need to know how to teach and how to make lesson plans. And so with CIEE, we have a 150-hour TEFL certification course that you can take. It is 130 hours online, an 11-week course, and then a 20-hour practicum. 10 of your hours can actually be completed in Thailand if you need, and 10 hours can be completed elsewhere, maybe one-on-one tutoring, but our TEFL team would help you out. The certification is accredited, recognized worldwide, and valid for life. So if you think you might want to teach somewhere else later, it's definitely going to help you out and would be worthwhile getting, because it doesn't expire and is accredited. Additionally, we have start dates every 2 weeks, so you don't have to worry about, oh no, this is a busy time for me. Every 2 weeks we have start dates, and classes are at 15 and lower, and you do have a tutor that you meet with once a week at a time you agree, but other than that, you can kind of do the work on your own time. If you want to do it all at 3 a.m., you can do it all at 3 a.m. So if you want more information, that's the information on the screen. You can also email me and I can help you out. Someone asked the cost of the TEFL certification. So for the 150-hour course, it is a $1,000 course. So you can certainly choose to add that right when you start an application with us, or if you want, you can add it at a later time. You can start it at any time. You could even start it while you're in Thailand if you want, but I would definitely suggest doing it before. If you want to add it later, there's a button on your application that says Add TEFL. It's a blue button about the color of this blue. And if you have trouble finding it, just email me and I'll help you out. So can you get TEFL certified through another organization? You certainly can, but I would let you know that you should do your research. TEFL certifications are like shoes. If you don't pay a lot, they're probably not that good. My friend who used to work here took one and they ended up proselytizing to her partway through. So I'd say you want to do your research. I for sure know that this program is accredited and recognized worldwide. So certainly do your research. All right, so staying connected. So what is teaching abroad really like? We are in social media. Sometimes it's interesting to see different things like on our Instagram page or our Facebook page. I was at orientation in Thailand a couple of weeks ago and took over the Instagram page for a week. So you can see some of the photos there. I think we're also on Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, things like that. So definitely check us out and follow us. There's also blogs on our website if you're interested in reading about people who've taught in Thailand or are currently teaching in Thailand. And I know that a lot of people love social media and getting news there, so these are great resources. I'll leave it up there for a minute if you want to jot it down. All right. So as I mentioned, we're reviewing applications now, and we're reviewing them for all of our 2018 programs. The May and June professional and standard departures is our spring 2018 application, and that has a January 1st deadline. So you have about a month and a half left for that application. Also, our July professional departure, which is the fall 2018 professional program, has an April 1st deadline, and then the standard departure fall program in October of 2018 has a June 1st deadline. So all those programs are available if you want to apply for them. I'd encourage you to apply for one if you decide you want to change from spring to fall or fall to spring. You don't need to start two applications and do it twice. You can just let me know and I'll transfer it over for you, and that will save you a lot of the work. So you can apply at ciei.org/teach. So I'm going to answer a few questions and you can look at that information, and then we'll go to some of our final slides. So someone asked about program fees, which is a good question. You want to know what you're paying for. So for the one semester program, our program fee is $1,800, and 2 semesters, $2,000. And so that goes towards all of your pre-departure assistance. If you're not an American citizen and you don't qualify for some of the visa and insurance things that I mentioned, you do get a slight discount, so definitely talk to me about that. But the program fee goes towards the orientation is a big part of it. It also goes towards covering your visa processing costs, the pre-departure courses, all of the assistance that you have, your insurance that you get. You get a Lonely Planet book as well, which is pretty cool. And you do have 24/7 support while you're in country, and of course support from me prior to going. So those are the main things that it covers. If you want an extensive list, it is listed on our website as to what's all covered in the program fee. All right. So this is Jason. He taught in Thailand last year, and Thai people love selfies. So I've seen many, many pictures of teachers with their students. This is one of my favorites, but I'm sure when you teach there, you'll be taking selfies with your students as well. So this time, I'd like to open it again for more questions, and I'll keep answering the questions that have come in. Thanks for all of your great questions. But I also want to point out that if you think of something later after the webinar, you can certainly call me. My number at work is 207-274-5773. I'm typically available 9 to 5 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and if I'm not there, you can leave a message and I'll be sure to call you back. You can also email me too at kplath@ciee.org. So write that information down. I'm the one that you want to contact. All right, and keep your questions coming and I'll answer them all shortly. All right. Perfect. So, like I said, I promise I'll answer all the questions. So, in the spring 2 semester, all right, so the spring 2 semester 2018 option is, it starts, so basically the way the semesters work are if you start in May or June. If you start in June, you're missing the first couple weeks of school, and schools who hire for June understand that you won't be there. The Thai school year starts in May. So if you want to be there for the full Thai school year, then you start in May and you end in March of the following year. As I mentioned, every school is a little bit different, but typically if you're on a 2-semester 2018 spring program, you're going to start in the beginning of May and then end at the end of March. And that's why they're able to offer the extra bonus, because you're there for the full Thai school year. Whereas if you start in the fall, you're actually starting in mid to late October during the second semester, and then you're teaching the end of one school year and the beginning of the next school year. So I'll go through the dates in a little clearer fashion. So if you start in May or June of 2018 on the 1-semester program, you'll likely teach until the end of September of 2018. On the 2-semester spring program, you'll likely teach until the end of March of 2019. If you go on the 2-semester professional fall program, you'll start in late July and teach until late June of the following year. So late July 2018 to late June of 2019. And if you teach in the fall 2018 program, for 1 semester, you'll start in mid to late October of 2018 and teach till the end of March of 2019. Or for 2 semesters, you'll teach until the end of September of 2019. And if you're 2 semesters starting in the fall, it's important to note that you're going to have summer break. Summer break occurs in April for 4 to 6 weeks. So during that time, you're not teaching, but you do have time to travel. So that's something that's pretty cool. If that sounds complicated and you want it in writing, just email me and I'll definitely send it out to you. All right. So yes, everyone, I've gotten your questions. I'm just going down the line and answering them. So if I haven't gotten to yet, I will get to it. All right. So again, what's the departure date for your departure? So I can't give exact departure dates because they haven't been determined yet. A lot of people in Western cultures want to plan ahead, and unfortunately, that's just not possible in Thailand. It's a little more last minute. So we will know departures before you go, certainly. Once you're placed, we'll have your departure, but I don't have an exact departure date right now because it depends on many factors. It depends on when the schools need their teachers. And so I can say it's early May, typically around the first week of May, and mid to late October and late July. All right, so another great question is, what's a great way to find out more information on the different regions in Thailand? So certainly you could just Google the different regions and find out. Blogs are sometimes ways to find out people's opinions and information on where they're at. You could get a book and read about Thailand. Really every region of Thailand has its unique cultural flair. There's awesome food all over Thailand. There's great people all over Thailand. There's villages, there's cities, there's temples. So I think no matter where you go, there's a lot to be had and a lot to be found. And worrying too much about the regions is probably not in your best interest. It might be better to just not worry too much and have an open mind, and then wherever you're placed, you can have a great time. All right, so good question on the personal statement. So the personal statement is another important part of your application where you answer questions. And we ask that you stick to around 800 words. If it's a little bit over, that's not a big problem. Just keep in mind that schools are hiring you based on your application, so you don't want to write a 10-page essay. No one's going to read it. It's better to be a little more concise, but if it's over by 100 or so, that's okay. We want you to be able to express your thoughts, so just keeping it around the 800 mark, 500 to 800 is what we suggest. But if you're a little over, it's okay. All right, awesome. You guys have really good questions. I appreciate it. All right, so good question about flights. Is the flight covered through CIEE? So no, we don't cover the flight. The one exception is if you stay for 2 semesters and start in May, June, or July, then your school is going to reimburse you, or not reimburse you, but give you a bonus of 20,000 Thai baht to offset the cost of your return flight. So that could be used for your flight. You've also asked how much it is. That really depends where you're flying from. Everywhere in the United States is different. Some suggestions I have on flights when you look is look on Skyscanner, use a private browser, check different websites. I've heard of flights being like $500 to $600 from California, but they might be $800 to $1,000 from Boston, or maybe more somewhere else in the United States. So it really just depends where you live. I'd suggest you look and see how much it is from wherever you're flying. All right. So a question about pets. Can you bring your pets with you to Thailand? Unfortunately, you cannot bring pets with you to Thailand. You can't bring dogs or cats. It's just simply not possible to live in the accommodation provided by the school, and it also is a huge undertaking to try to bring a pet internationally. So dogs, rabbits, cats, you can't bring those with you on the program. Additionally, it's important to mention if you and your spouse or partner want to teach abroad together, that's awesome. We can certainly accept both of you on the program and place you together. But if you have children or dependents who are not going to be participating on the program, we're typically not able to accommodate that. All right, so a question about accommodation. So are accommodations the same standard that you're accustomed to? That's very hard to answer because I don't know what you're accustomed to. What I can say about the accommodations is that at a minimum, you're going to be guaranteeing your own room. So accommodations, again, different from school to school, from place to place. But typically, you're going to be in a studio apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, or a shared house with other CIE teachers. And no matter what, you'll have your own room. They're typically furnished, but there are some things that will be different. Oftentimes, for example, the shower might be over the toilet, and that's just how Thai bathrooms are. Or, for example, Thai kitchens aren't like Western kitchens that we may be used to. Typically, it's going to consist of a hot pot, maybe a fridge, and a plate, and a bowl, and things like that. Very simple, because most people in Thailand, it's culturally normal to go out to eat for most of your meals. It's the time when you go out with your family. Very few people are sitting in their homes cooking. It's cheaper and often tastier to go out to eat. So kitchens are going to be a little bit different in most of the homes. Other than that, beds, living area, I suppose they're standard for what you might be used to, but it depends what you're used to again. So what's the cost of living? As I mentioned, it's pretty cheap. So you've asked how much it is for coffee, bread, etc. It's like $1, $2 for coffee, depending where you are. In Bangkok, it's going to be a little bit more. In villages, it will be less. In smaller cities, it will be less. In tourist areas, it will be more. You can get a full meal for like $5, and especially if you go out to eat with a bunch of friends, you can order a few things and share them and eat very cheaply. So living is relatively cheap overall. You can buy clothing at markets if you want, and your expenses should be pretty low. All right, I'll leave another minute or so for people to ask questions. They seem to be tapering off, but definitely put in any of the last minute questions you might have. right, great. So we got a couple more questions. So I'll answer these and then we'll probably start wrapping up. So are there opportunities to go to the gym or maintain your fitness lifestyle? You know, depending where you are, depends if there's a gym. So a lot of times there definitely are gyms in Thailand and people in Thailand do want to work out as well. A lot of our teachers that just went in the fall are planning to run a half marathon in Bangkok coming up. So yeah, I think if fitness is important to you, you can certainly make it a priority and make it happen. It might look a little different than it did wherever you're currently living. You may need to modify. If there's not a gym, maybe you're lifting cans or something. But sometimes there are gyms available, sometimes there's not. You certainly could run or walk outside and do it at night because it's a little cooler. But many people in Thailand are fit, and many of our participants maintain their fitness and actually have more time to exercise. So certainly if that's important to you, you can keep that up. And then it looks like maybe our last question is, what's the acceptance rate? So in Thailand, we have a very high need for teachers. Every term we could hire about 200 or more teachers. And so as long as you meet the requirements and submit a quality application, we're typically going to be able to accept you into the program. If you submit something that I think maybe needs improvement before being sent to the school, I'm going to reach out to you and ask you to correct it so that we can make your application as strong as possible. But typically we're able to accept most people who apply on the program as long as they do meet the requirements. All right, and we do have one more question about safety. And so, is Thailand safe overall? And I would say yes, Thailand is very safe overall. The people are very kind and considerate. As with anywhere in the world, especially in the United States, you need to be careful if you're in bigger cities or if you're in tourist areas. Any tourist area in the world, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, you need to watch your stuff. Don't be flailing your money around or flashing your passport or expensive things that you have. You need to be careful about it, and don't be walking at night alone. That's probably not a good idea anywhere. And so, yes, in general, Thailand's very safe. I've never not felt safe there, and I've traveled alone as a single female multiple times, and I've always felt safe and well taken care of. But as with anywhere in the world, you need to be mindful and not get really drunk and walk alone at night on a quiet street. That's probably not a good idea. So if you're mindful, I think that you'll feel maybe safer in Thailand than you do where you're currently from. So with that, it looks like our questions are pretty much wrapping up. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to join our webinar today. And I really appreciate all the questions that you asked. They were great questions. And again, I recorded this, so if the recording works, I'll be sending it out to everyone within the next few days. Thank you again, and I hope you have a really great afternoon.